Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you here. What promises to be an eye opening and action packed session. Whether you're brand new to real estate investing or have some experience under your belt, you're in the right place to take your skills to the next level. Today, we're diving into, I would say, three of the most critical skills every successful investor needs to master. Number one, running comparable sales, making multiple offers, and determining the best exit strategies to maximize your profits. And these are just not buzzwords, they're the foundation. You have to understand where the numbers come from. But I want you to think about this for a moment. What if you could evaluate properties with precision, confidently make offers and stand out, and always know when to stay in a deal, or maybe you just need to cash out, or maybe you just need to move on from the deal? That's going to totally change your game. By the end of this training, you're going to have the tools, knowledge to do exactly that. We're going to be sharing actionable steps, real world examples, and step-by-step strategies so you can implement this process. Those of you who don't know me, my name's Chris Goff. Got years of experience in real estate investing. I've successfully closed countless deals, pioneered strategies that maximize profits. I'm passionate about educating others, helping aspiring investors gain the knowledge, confidence to achieve financial freedom. And through my work, I aim to share practical tools and insights to empower people to succeed in this business. I'm also joined by Eric Van Gorkum, a seasoned real estate investor and a dedicated professor. Eric bridges the gap between theory and practice. So I want to bring on Eric.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Chris. I appreciate it. My name is Eric Van Gorkum. I used to be a student of Chris's many years ago. I was interested in investing in real estate and watched a bunch of videos online and read a bunch of books and things of that nature. And then I came across some of Chris's videos, and he broke it down into a very understandable way of applying your knowledge. And that really hit home for me, being an instructor that teaches anatomy and physiology. I was like, oh, I can understand step-by-step process of how he does real estate, because I explained those step-by-step processes of how the body works. So figured out a way to contact him and met up with him, and he taught me a lot about investing, and we've become good friends, and the rest is kind of history.
Before we jump into the presentation, if you haven't done so already, head over to my website, download my best-selling book with the legendary Brian Tracy. This book is packed with invaluable insight strategies that's really aligns with exactly what we're going to be covering today. So don't miss this opportunity and get that book downloaded. It is for free, and I promise you, we will not bombard you with emails and all that crap. And while you're over there, I've got something exciting to share. I just opened up coaching. This is for a select few students. This is a chance to work with me personally, side by side, and gain the insights from my years of real estate experience. Together, we're going to tackle your goals head on and really build a strategy for success. This will be open until it's closed. So if you're interested in saying, hey, I want to fast track this, Chris, I need your help. I need you to look at this deal. I need to understand these things. This is a great opportunity for those people. I would encourage you to go over there and let's have a conversation about. We could schedule a call, and I'll be happy to talk to you. We've got some really big things on the horizon, and this is going to be our new REIPro, where we're going to have active MLS listing, failed canceled listings, new filters, and new statistics. These tools are designed to transform your investing experience. And I promise you, this is going to be so valuable over the next year of 2025. If you don't know what I mean by that, you need to go check out the training we did last week about kickstarting 2025 and go through that video. This is really going to be awesome. Now, in this training, we're going to be running comps, making offers, analyzing deals, and we're going to do it within REIPro's powerful platform. So if you haven't done it already, sign up for a 14-day free trial. So this is a property that one of my students did. And I love sharing these stories because there's a lot of work that goes into these deals, a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you never, ever hear about. I want to reveal with you how we run the numbers, how we make the offers, and how we actually analyze the deal from an exit strategy. Let me provide you some background first. My student discovered this property where the owner was asking 140 grand. Now, if you live in California, New York, you're going to be like, you can't even buy a bathroom for 100 grand, right? Got it. The owner mentioned that the home is currently rented for 1,200 a month. He's going through a divorce and disclosed that this house, check this out, this house is part of a buyout plan with the city. Now, although he intended to hold the property until that buyout was finalized, he now needs to sell due to a divorce. And I say this all the time, Eric. It's not like you're finding properties. Of course, you're finding properties, but you're finding the situations behind the property because that situation determines, number one, is someone going to sell, why they're selling, how much they're going to sell it for, and how they're going to sell it. There's so many different ways to buy a house. The situation helps us craft a better offer or multiple offers. But I really want to kind of share exactly what this city development project was because we spent weeks on this particular, and I'm going to give you all the details about it. This is exactly what the city put out on their website. So, phase one, and I'm going to show you some other pictures here, but phase one included a Costco, a Chick-fil-A, a Raising Cane's, and some other retail options. Anytime, and I'll just say this to people maybe just getting started, or maybe you've been in, you don't know this. If a Costco or Chick-fil-A comes to your area, that's huge because they spend millions of dollars in research exactly where they're going to put these properties. They know who their buyer is, how much they're going to spend, the average medium household income. There's a lot of things that come along with having properties like this. Obviously, the city has posted this, but a lot of people don't actually investigate it. Phase two is happening right now. And phase three, as you can see here, would involve the potential sale of this property that we're looking at. In the owner's eyes, oh my gosh, the city's going to buy me up. I'll just wait for that to happen. The problem was he's going through a divorce. And this is one of many other properties that he actually owns. So this is a tired landlord or a tired landlord that's going through a divorce and now he's being forced to sell. That's a situation that, usually presents an opportunity, not always, but that's where we are. So I want to show you where the property is. And you can see, and I just took this aerial shot. You can see the Costco, the Chick-fil-A's there, the Raising Cane's there. And you can see where this property is. Now, in front of the property, there is a lot of old retail. So what we did is we actually reached out to the city and learned that this property would not be included in the redevelopment. Or at least they said it was a 95% chance it would not be included. We could just wait and maybe let the commercial retail space improve in time. It would draw more people to the area because it's more desirable. More desirable, value increases, which made sense. If you look at the now previous owner of this property, that's kind of what he was looking for. I do want to note that you need to conduct your own research before believing what any seller says to you. I want you to keep in mind that sellers aim to maximize the sales price of a property. How many times have we heard a seller, no, my home's worth this much because the house down the street sold for this much? And they don't even know the details of the property, the size of the property. They just know that a house sold. We did not mention this research to the owner until after we inspected the property visually. We believe that we could use this information to more or less justify our offer. And generally, a city will offer fair market value for a property, which may be slightly below the current market price. And that's usually due to the city wants a quicker sale, and obviously they need to acquire multiple properties in a certain area, as you can see on this one street. But I want you to remember this property needed repairs. Which strategies make sense here? And I want you to think about this from what could you do with this property? How could you acquire this property? I've said this over, the past 15, 20 years. I want you to ask yourselves these questions. Could I wholesale this property? Now, keep in mind, we haven't made an offer yet. I want you to think about, could I put this house under contract at a wholesale price, assign or sell that interest over to another investor and make a profit. Potentially, assuming the seller would be willing to take that price, right? Then I want you to ask yourself, could I rehab the property? Could I buy it at a wholesale price, fix it up, and maybe sell it, maybe hold on to it, do whatever you want with it? Well, if you can wholesale it, you can rehab it. Could I lease option the property? Could I offer this on a rent to own to somebody that wants to live there, rent it, and then have the option to buy it? I've seen the pictures of this property, and I'm going to say no. Generally, the homes that we lease option, and I say this generally, are going to be homes that are really livable. Now, I did tell you that it's currently rented. I've seen the pictures of the property, and it's definitely rented. Okay. I just don't think you would ever get a down payment on this property based on the current condition of the property. And we'd have to evict the tenant that's already in there. And so I'm going to scratch this off for those reasons. Then I want you to ask yourself, could you sell or finance it? Would the owner be open to accepting monthly payments for X period of time and then you cash them out, or you take care of all the maintenance costs, repairs, tenants, toilets, headaches, and everything that goes in between, and they can make some interest off of you? Possibly, but I also know that this is a divorce situation where they're looking to get cashed out. Now, I also want you to ask yourself, what would you, and I say this to sellers sometimes, what would you do with the property if it doesn't sell? And it's so funny when you say that to a seller, they're like, well, no, we just got to find the right buyer. Well, I understand that. But what are you going to do with the property if it doesn't sell? Well, that's going to tell you the motivation right there. Next, I want you to decide what exit strategies make sense. Now, keep in mind, we haven't even made an offer, but these are things that I want you to start thinking about. If you were to wholesale this with the owner, there's only one exit strategy, and that's to wholesale it out to another buyer. If you bought it at a wholesale price, either your money, bank's money, hard money, private money, however you buy it, you have multiple exit strategies. You could technically wholesale it out just for a little bit more than what you just bought it for. Now, I never really recommend this strategy because if you're going to go and pay to get a loan, put money down potentially, pay interest, points, all the fees that are associated with buying the house, you generally don't wholesale this back out, but you could. Obviously, if you got an extremely good deal, it could make sense. Could you fix it up and flip it, sell it? Sure. Could you fix it up a little bit and maybe hold on to it? Sure. Maybe you put a little bit of money into it and use it as a short-term rental. Sure. Could you sell or finance it? Absolutely. You own it. Could you fix it up and do a lease option? Absolutely. You own it. You could move in. Other than that, the only options that I can even possibly think of is burn it down, which would be insane. If you sell or finance the home, you could do all of those things as well, because guess what? You own the home. And this is super important because I want you to understand that your exit strategies increase when you actually own it. And that's a difference. Now, I could own it with a bank or I could own it with the owner. So I just want you to start thinking about what could you do with this property? How could you buy it or acquire it? And then how could you get rid of it? Now, we're going to finalize all of this in this presentation, exactly what we did and what you could have done other than what we did. I want you to start just thinking of that in our head. So here's our next steps. Number one, we need to run comparable sales. We need to calculate multiple offers on this property because I think we've identified, number one, we could actually put it under contract at a wholesale price, right? That's one option. Another option, because the owner hasn't said no yet, is to do seller finance. So I know for sure we can create a couple of different offers. How do we even make the offer? We're going to analyze the exit strategies. I'm going to share with you what we did on this one. I'm going to share with you the end results of this property as well. And guess what? We're going to jump into REIPro. All right, so I've got this property uploaded into REIPro. We've saved, obviously, there's a ton of things you could do here, guys, but let's skip down to what I call those executable steps. We are in step number 4. We're going to start with comparable sales. Now, although I've done this ahead of time, and that's just kind of shorten the training a little bit, I want to explain to you how I did it. Because to me, and why am I doing it to begin with? Now, when you come to the comparables, REIPro, we have all sales. It doesn't matter if it's an MLS sale. It doesn't matter if it's a for sale by owner sale. We're going to have it. Now, this property is in Missouri. And I will tell you that Missouri is what's called a non-disclosure state. It's against the law to publicly show a sold price, let's just say on Zillow, because it's non-disclosure. We have access to all that information because we have agreements with those that are also, you have to log into REIPro, and it's not public. Come down. We do have a filter button here. You could obviously just filter the comps, the properties that have sold right here. You have that option to do that, but I want to teach you like from bare bones. So you see all the properties that have sold. We label them A through as many letters as we can go through the alphabet. I'm going to scroll down here just to get to this one part. So you see the subject properties in this gray area. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, built in 1956, 1,000 square feet. You see the lot size, so forth. The most important number when running comps is the square footage. So 1,000 square feet. And if I just scroll my eyes down that column, I can immediately find properties that may not be exact square footage, but I want to find them as close as possible. And sometimes this isn't very easy to do because you don't want to go back 5 years ago to see what a property sold for. Obviously, comparable sales is about a property that is similar in tip-top shape because we have to determine what the after repaired value is, and that's why we run comps. We have to similar bedrooms and bathrooms, similar years, similar lot size. All of these things come into play. But the number one thing I want you to look at is square footage. That's the first column that I look at. So this property has 1,000 square feet. I'm looking for properties that are pretty close to 1,000. So you see this first property here, 850. It's not 1,000, but it's close. The second thing that I do is I look at the bedrooms and bathrooms. So this property is a 2.2, but our property is a 3.1. So this actually would not be my first choice. It's selected because I've gone through all the other comps and came back to this one. But the next thing I want to do is understand what was the condition of this property when it's sold. Sometimes you can find pictures online. We have this little go-to arrow. It's going to take you to Google. I can pull up this particular property and see, are there any pictures of this property? You see when it was sold at. It's funny because it says it's 2.1, but the tax assessor says it's a 2.2. So ignore that property for a second because this was actually the last property I checked. As I scroll down, remember, I want you to keep your eyes on the square footage because that's important. A lot of people don't know if you just think of your street that you live on. Let's assume you live in a single family house. You live on the street with a bunch of homes. The square footage of the largest properties on that street, the cost per square foot sold will always be less than the small property on that same street. Because in real estate, we have to find the middle. So the small property is really devaluing the large property while the large property is increasing the value of the small property. Now, I'm not talking about amenities or this one's got an in-ground pool, this one's, got granite countertops. I'm not talking about that stuff. We could see those things in pictures. I'm just looking at hard data right now. So square footage to me is very important. Then I come down to this particular property, which is just a little bit larger, but I'm going to click on this property. I'm actually going to go and see if there are any pictures. And you can see just immediately based on this few pictures This property has been updated. It's remodeled. And this could be a very good comp to use. This is so important. And I don't want to confuse anybody, Eric, but I hope people get this. This property was purchased in June. It's 1152 square foot. They sold it for, they bought, or these people bought it for 158. If I go back to this property, they're asking 30995. 1152 square foot. This is a tremendous comp, even though I'm only comping the 158 portion of this. So to me, I'm like, see, people are kind of catching on with what's coming to the area. And they're keeping their fingers crossed, probably hoping that it sells. So what these people did is they bought the property within a very short period of time. They remodeled the property and now they're trying to get 300 for it. That's a good sign. I'm going to use the low comp because the only thing that could come out of this is if I use this low comp and it ends up being worth 250 to 300, I'm just going to reap the rewards of that, which is pretty awesome. I'm going to keep scrolling down. I've got another comp here. You can see 1134 sold for 212. Again, I'm going to go see, are there any pictures of this property? Was this home in tip-top shape, updated in order to use it as a particular comp? Now, although this property is a 3.2, that could, affect the ARV on this. I go down to the next property, again, a 3.2, but it's within that square footage that we're talking about. Sometimes we can think of head and actually add a bathroom because we've already seen the property, we've inspected the property. Sometimes you can't, but I know that this property here that sold for 158, this Spoon Drive, that's a great comp for us. So I went back and I said, let me take a comp that's a little bit smaller. Sometimes you want to go a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, because at the end of the day, all we're doing is averaging the numbers out. And that's without going into all these other columns. I really look at square footage. I'll look at beds and baths. Lot size will matter, but if it's a normal neighborhood, they're all going to be somewhat similar. There'll be some odd ones out there. Then I need to look at the condition of that property. When I check those boxes, we automatically calculate the after repaired. Now, to me, the 161 is what's based off actual facts of what has sold over a short period of time that is similar to this property and within this radius, as you can look on the map of this property. Now, there's a lot of times, if you could see that road that goes from like east to west, Olive Boulevard, there are times where the neighborhoods above this Olive Boulevard are completely different than the neighborhoods below Olive Boulevard. And if that's the case, those properties may not be similar. But my student has driven this area. They've looked at the properties. They understand that this area is very similar and comparable. Now that I have the ARV, I know that I'm going to go to our cash offer formula. If you haven't seen this, we've already got all this stuff programmed, ready for you to go. And mathematically, it's 100% perfect. Okay. We have this where you could wholesale it. We have a little switcher here, or you can rehab it. This property is in divorce. I want you to keep that in mind. Could we potentially wholesale it? Yes. But my student is in a position to actually acquire the property. And if you can acquire the property, we're going to analyze the numbers from that point of view. Now, you could potentially wholesale this if you're just looking to wholesale. Over to the left is what we call step one. That's the property value. We carry that over from the comparable sales. That's the only number you need to see in step one. Step two is what I call these hardcore basic expenses, right? What are the costs going to be? Acquisition cost is if we bought it from the owner, we would have closing cost. So you got to go to closing. And in this particular area, it's about $800 for this home. We also calculated 30,000 in potential rehab costs. So if she were to rehab it today, this is how much money. This part right here, I think messes up a lot of people. If you're that investor that sits there and says, "Oh no, I'm going to just hold on to this. I could put 10 grand in this property and we could get more rent for it." That's great. But you can't calculate your cash offer that way because at some point, one day, you're going to want to sell this property. And although you only put 10 grand into it today, in time, when you decide to sell this 5 years, 10 years down the road, you're going to probably want to remodel this property and maximize the sales price. So you're still going to have to put cash in it. I'd like to try to calculate what would that total cost be today. I get it. 5 years from now, the cost of wood could be different. The countertops could be different. I got it. But we have to calculate something today. I don't care if you only put 10 grand in it to rent it out. I want you to calculate the total cost to rehab it. I also put in what's called a hedge expense. I like to use a general rule of thumb of 10%. This is 10% of the repair expense. It's that buffer that we'd like to add to this expense column in case you missed something in your inspection. You didn't realize that the floorboards underneath were rotted. You didn't know that there was a leaky pipe behind the wall. Whatever it is, I want you to add in a little bit of buffer. Then we move to holding expense, which is nothing more than the cost of you're going to have to turn the electric on, the water on, and things of that nature while you're rehabbing the property. Now, also want you to remember that this property is currently rented. But at some point, when you do decide to fully remodel this house, you're going to have that holding expense. We estimate 3 months of holding time. And if I bought it and decided to sell it today and used an agent, that would come out of the seller's pocket, right? Which would be me because I just bought the house. It would be you if you sold it 10 years from now. I always like to calculate an agent commission, regardless if you sell it yourself and don't use an agent to sell the house. Next, when I do sell the house, you're going to have closing costs again, right? You're going to have closing costs to buy it. You're going to have closing costs to sell it. You do have back tax column, advertising expense. Now, this other expenses could be anything. This particular deal, my student was getting hard money for this property. And this is the expenses of getting that hard money. Now, if you're not getting hard money, there could be other expenses, points, or whatever it may be, anything that you want to add to this. Because our goal is to say, if it's sold for this, how much expenses would you have? And that's what this column's for. And then finally, step 3 is your potential profit on this deal. At this point, I put it at 15% because that's generally where I like to put it. Some deals, I may not want to do, 15%. I may want more. Some deals I could do less. It really comes down to the purchase price, how much time I'm going to have involved in this deal. So if you took the after repaired value and you subtracted all the expenses, all the profits, that's going to give us what our offer is going to be. Now you could see our maximum cash offer. You can see that it's 52.7% of the ARV, but I always like to start that a little bit less, which is about 2% less or so, because your maximum, if all of these expenses and profits were true, and you could sell it for 161 today, I want you to think about today, regardless if you hold on to this would be great little property to just, hey, it's a quick project. You can make 24 grand and move on to the next deal. At the end of the day, paid a little bit more than this, but I'm not there yet because we need to make another offer. If you could make a lease option offer, which it doesn't fit this property, you would go here. We're going to go to the seller finance offer. So in this particular offer, the sales price, I always like to calculate this higher than the cash price because I want to make that look more desirable. Now, there are times where you really can't go much more than the cash offer. It also depends on what your exit strategy could be as well. Because if I pay 110 when I'm supposed to pay 83 and I rehab it, I'm not going to make any money on this property. What I did here is I took 161, just kind of generally speaking. I took minus 30, which is 131. And then I took out some more money on top of that, bring it down to 110. Now it's definitely higher than 83. It's a lot higher than 83, but he was asking 140. I'm going to offer it $5,000 down payment. I don't want to put a bunch of money down. To me, it's like a double down payment, not tell the seller that. Well, if the seller comes back to you and says, hey, Chris, no, I need like 30 grand down. Let's say, well, no, I don't want to put down a double down payment. They're like, what are you talking about? Well, if I give you 30 grand, have to put 30 grand into the property, it's like a double down payment to me. This property needs work. So I'm going to offer 5,000 down. 4% interest rate, which you can't even go to the bank for a 4% interest rate. Could you go less? Try. Could you go more? Yes. Because I'm really looking at what my total expense is on a monthly basis because I know they currently have it rented out for $1,200 a month. So as long as that number is under 1,200, you would cash flow on this property. But why start high? But don't start so low that the seller won't return your call. It's kind of a balance. We're going to amortize it for 30 years. We're going to do a 5-year, what's called balloon payment. Could you go 10 years? Yes. What that means is whatever the balance owed in 5 years, and if I go to the amortization chart and I go down to the bottom here, in 5 years, I would owe the seller about 95 grand. So I would need to, number one, go to a bank, refinance it. I could sell it. I've got to do something to cash the owner out. Why would the owner do that? Well, they're going to make an extra 20 grand in interest if they own it free and clear. So they're actually going to make more money. A lot of sellers, they sell the property, they put the money in the checking account and have no idea what to do with it. Why not make interest? I mean, hello, they don't even have to do anything, but they're making interest on their money, at least 4% interest, better than a savings account, right? Plus, they have no tenants, toilets, headaches, management fees, repair costs, taxes, insurance, because we own the house now. We take care of all of that. Property taxes I put in, and the insurance on this property came to $930. Over to the right is going to be the summary of all these numbers. And the most important number I'm really looking for is that monthly cost. I know that I need to keep it under 12 so I could actually cash flow on this property. Now, if my cash offer is 83, why would I pay 110? Well, 110 is a little bit closer to the 140 that they wanted, but we're going to have to buy a different way. And I'm not even sure if the owner really will go for seller financing since it's a divorce situation, but you never know. I know a lease option doesn't make sense for me because I'd have to put a bunch of money into it to get somebody in a more qualified position that would want to live there to eventually get a loan. So I don't want to put a bunch of money into a property that I don't own. And that's why I've eliminated the lease option part of it. So I think these two offers would make sense. Okay. Now, how do you make these offers? Well, you could just hit view print right here. And I will just show you what this looks like real quick. And you could edit this, but we have these letters already kind of pre-printed for you, ready to go. And I would print both of these and make 2 offers at the exact same time. So we have what's called the cash offer, and we would do this. And then I would print out that seller finance offer. If I can meet the owner at the property, if that's even possible, that's the best way to do it because you're right in front of them. They get to see who you are. The more you build that relationship, they see that you're interested. They'll negotiate with you. Some owners don't do that. You can email this to them, but you need to follow up with a phone call. Sometimes people need to think about it. Sometimes they'll counter. Sometimes they'll say no. You get a lot of different responses, but we know financially what I need to offer is around this ballpark number. How do we analyze the exit strategies? We go to REIPro. Now, I've already done this. I've got some saved analysis, and I'm just going to open this one up because this one's going to open your eyes. So the left-hand side of your screen is how we buy it. The right-hand side of the screen is what are we doing with it once we do that? How are we making money with this property? Well, the ARV is 161. We settled on a $97,000 purchase price. Why did we go up from 83? I get it. I'm going to hear people make comments on this. It's because of the one comp, but I'm also going to share with you some things after this on what justifies. I normally say, no, 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 it's whatever the cash offer says. But I'm seeing that properties are actually, things are happening in this area. It's like a rebuild. And sometimes you're planning for the future. If I go through all the analysis on the left-hand side and she's getting a loan on this property, you can see the numbers here. The rent is 1,200 if we kept the tenant and really didn't do anything to the property, meaning we're not going to put any money into the property at this point. I do a 10% vacancy rate usually, and I've got $100 in monthly expenses that I like to accumulate for things that go wrong. And I get it. Look, things could be more expensive than that, but let's keep our fingers crossed at this point. The annual cash flow is only $2,000. Now, that's not very high. And that's why I want you to start thinking about, is this a property, if you needed cash today, would this be your exit strategy? Probably not. If you are the investor that says, hey, I could hold on to this and this property is going to be way worth what I paid for it in time because of the development that's going on, all of those good things, then yes, this could be a very good property to just kind of, I want you to think about it this way. This is a property that I would be okay with breaking even today, waiting for the development of things around me, and then waiting for this property to increase in value. And I'm going to share with you, well, you see that one, somebody bought for 158. Now they're trying to sell for 300. It doesn't mean it will sell for 300. Now, I also did a purchase and flip. So we're going to fix this property up. Basically, all the numbers to the left are going to be the same. And we're going to sell this property, let's say for the 161. So 3 months to do, we're going to do 1 month to sell. I added in here a real estate commission plus some other cost associated with selling the property. This could change. You could go in here and just start putting numbers in here. I know that we had some other fees for the closing side of this. I added that in there. If I went this direction, even though I originally anticipated a 20-some thousand-dollar profit, but because of the loan that I have to get and what they charge, my profits really come down. Now, it's not a home run deal. So I don't even know if this is even a good exit strategy. Now, the cash on cash return is pretty good, 28%. It's almost 11% ROI. You could look at it that way. For me, probably not worth my while to use that exit strategy. And then I did one more. If you seller financed it from the owner and then rented the property out. Okay. And that's assuming they took the seller finance offer, which they did not. By the way, they took the $97,000 offer. But you can see, yeah, your cash flow went up. Your cash on cash return is higher. But really, this isn't a great opportunity. Like, if you need to make money, like, I think I'll pass, and use that money for other things. But at the end of the day, if you had 10 of these going on at the same time, where it doesn't cost you a fortune to go buy the property, this totally makes sense. Now you've got, 10 times 3,200. You're not really spending that much cash, 5,000. You don't even, this particular property, we're not even removing the tenant in this case. If we put money into this property, I know we can rent it for more than the 1,200, just simply based on even just a Zillow estimate of 1,500. Okay. So you could go in that particular direction, but the direction that my student went into is this one. And I think this, at the end of the day, even though it had the lowest immediate return, it has one of the higher returns. Now, if he were to sell or finance it, of course, we would have went that route, but the fix and flip really wasn't going to be an option for us. The value of this property is in the long-term hold. And sometimes that's hard to grasp and understand. And why are we going to put this time and money into a project? You do 10 of these and you're retiring in 5 years. That's why. It's not that difficult to do it that way. So you just got to find these opportunities, just like she has found this opportunity. Here's the final result. So we're looking at a 3 to 5 year plan as a rental property, although there's really, I call it no cash flow. Something goes wrong. You don't have any cash flow, but we're betting on the appreciation down the road. So we plan to rehab the property once she sees what's going on. And I think once you start seeing, there's other houses that are going to be bought, they're going to be bought for more money. The area's development is going to take more shape than what's already there. So now it looks like this is a excellent opportunity, but a future opportunity. We see the potential ARV on this property as small as it is, 250 to 300. A 3-year potential profit based on what we bought it for. Of course, you got repairs in this, but you do have some cash flow, really good cash flow on this property, 177,000 minus any obvious major ongoing repairs that we didn't calculate in our offer, and future selling costs, because remember, we calculated commission based on 161. So there could be, if you sell for 300, or 250, there's going to be more costs. We think that valuation could go up in a 5-year plan. And again, this is doing our research with the city when things are coming in. We don't know the exact details other than what they've said, but it's already taking shape. I want to give you one more potential option, and this may be an option for my student, is that once this whole redevelopment plan takes place, you could do a burr on this. So buy it, right, which we already have. You could rehab it. She could take that money we've already calculated, rehab it, refinance it, put a renter in there at a higher dollar amount, and then obviously you're going to repeat that. Now, of course, you got to rerun the numbers when you do this just to make sure that it's financial sense. So the city also mentioned to us one last piece on this, that one of the last parts of their development, they're putting the largest target, a 2-story target in that last vacant spot. And it's going to come near the final stages of phase 3. I want to share with you, this is just currently another property. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 45 square feet bigger than this one, currently on the market for $299. As things shape and take place around this neighborhood, property values are going to increase because they're trying to bring back this town that, just talking with my student that's been there all her life pretty much, it used to be a great place and now it kind of went down, and now they're coming back, and the city is backing it up by putting a ton of development into this area. We have major companies coming in that are also betting on this. And when you start to see things like that, you never know when the right time is, but these are kind of signs that although it's not a huge payday today, this could be potentially a really big payday. I want you to think about, if you just find 10 of these, right? Just 10 of these properties, wait 5 years, sell it. I mean, a lot of people, are going to have a nice retirement. You surely couldn't say that from a 401k plan. That's for sure.
I think you make a good point on this deal, is that you either go with, a lot of people buy properties for monthly cash flow,
Yeah.
but the other way is appreciation. And in some instances, if and it looks like the development is really kicking off around this place, the appreciation is your better thing. Even if you don't make as much money monthly, if you have a little bit of reserves to cover the monthly maybe hiccups that might show up, the appreciation value of this house is going to be astronomical and probably a lot faster than, when most people think, 5, 7 years. I think in this case, they build that target and everything else, that appreciation value is going to go up exponentially quick. So 2 to 3 years is pretty quick, if not sooner. So I think she's got a really good deal set. And one thing also that people don't realize is, a lot of times you can go down to the city that you live in, and you go down to the planning department. In the planning department, you can ask them and figure out what kind of projects are on the books, what kind of roads are they're planning on building. And you can start looking at properties maybe near roads or developments that are happening in the future. And even though most people don't even realize that's happening, you have information at your disposal, and you start looking at properties in and around maybe the new roads or the possible development that'll happen. And that gives you a head start on a lot of other people, because they aren't looking at that information. And that's just something that takes a little bit of time and a little bit of effort to look up, do a little bit of research, but boy, it pays dividends in the long haul.
I do it at least once a month, just where I live.
Yeah.
And they have this online, and I can see what they're approving
Right.
coming in that shows the location. You get to see exactly what Eric just said is what's coming. Like, I'm driving down the street, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, they're putting a new, shopping center right here. Okay, what else is coming?" And then I found out that Amazon bought a bunch of land because they're wanting to put a Whole Foods. And then I found out that Amazon sold it to a Publix shopping center, a grocery store. And I'm like, I would have never have known these things,
Right.
and unless you do some research out there, do some basic research. A lot of the county stuff will be online for most counties, some areas won't, just to kind of see. Because if you were the investor, Eric, that needed, look, I need to make money. I just can't hand out that kind of money and just sit on this thing. You would have had to go on a different route with the exit strategy. But I think this exit strategy is the way to go, which I really, it's like, I don't care if she breaks even on a monthly basis right now because the value
The value.
is
Yeah.
so far greater
And
in the
if she did
potential.
fix it up a little bit, the value would even go a little bit even higher too. So her return on her investment would be probably really good. Michelle had a question. What if you cannot hold the property for 3 to 5 years? Would you still do the deal? I would, because of the appreciation. In 3 years, I think it's going to appreciate.
You know why I would? These people are buying houses right now trying to sell them for 300. Doesn't mean they'll sell. All
True,
right.
but even if it's sold for 250, you're
E-
still,
Even if it's sold for 200.
yeah, you're still in a positive.
Yeah, we probably, based on some of the what's on the market, may need to put more than 30 grand in it. But even if we put 50 grand in it, sold it for a lower price, because a lot of people don't think about, Eric, is that we base numbers off of what has sold. But when you fix it up, you're competing against the people that are on the market today. And those numbers may be different. The rehab may be different than what you calculated that had sold.
Correct.
So you do need to look at your competition. So if I see competition like this is just one property I pulled, which is literally just south of this, is if they're asking 300, we put almost a similar type property for 225, but the same rehab is done in the property, we're going to sell every time. If if
Yeah.
if there's a
And even,
buyer,
and you have to look
you're
at
going to
what they did
compare.
on the rehab. I mean, you could easily, these are a lot of older houses, older red brick. You could turn around and easily paint the brick and do a couple things on the inside, and it
Yeah,
completely changes the entire picture of that house, and it makes it definitely a more modern look. And so that right there, for a lot of people, are like, "Ooh, this is great! I love this. I love they did a little bit of things. Kitchen and bathrooms are always big. That's where you'd spend probably most of your money. A little bit of paint, and you're golden." So yeah, I mean, you could do that for 50,000 and you get a really good return. So it's always good to look at the comps of what people are selling their houses for. And then that kind of gives you information. Okay, well, they just painted the house. They didn't do
yep.
any upgrades and they're still asking 300,000. Okay, wait a second. I could fix a bathroom and I can upgrade the kitchen a little bit and maybe put some paint on the front of the house and I can sell it for maybe more. Who knows?
You have competition right now. You're not making the number up. Like that's what people are trying to get. So if you come in less, which I recommend today, is to beat the competition price wise that's currently out there, because obviously it's a buyer's market in most places because of
Right.
the interest rates.
And
So,
if you have a lower price that's advertised, you're going to draw a lot more attention. And lo and behold, the selling price maybe actually go up because more
yep,
people looking at that property. And then they
yep.
see that there's better value to it because there is some rehab already been done on it and things like that. I have another question. How do you get the repair value? This is from Linda.
So I think you need to understand, number one, kind of where the pricing is in the neighborhood. Number one, as far as home pricing. And then I can understand what's going to go into the property. So when I physically go to the property, I can see, oh, it needs a new roof, or this kitchen needs to be updated. But can we save the cabinets, or do we need new cabinets? Does the countertop need to change? What kind of countertop should go in a house that is in this price range? Not underdone, but not overdone, because You'll throw away a lot of money that way.
And that's
Paint,
one thing.
carpet, so forth.
Yeah. That's
If
one
you
thing that when I was first doing rehabs, I was trying to rehab the house to make it what I would live in. And
how
you got
you
to
would
scale,
live in it.
and you got to scale back, and it's like you want to make it nice, but it doesn't have to be what you would necessarily want to live in, because in some instances that's because you're going to
Yep.
put a higher dollar amount, and but you're turning around and selling it. So you've got to kind of scale it down a little bit in your thought process, because everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to make it pretty, I'm going to make it glorious, and that just bogs things down, and it costs more money, and that's not really the point. The point is to make it nice, but not you're going to live in it. So something to
And
think
you can
about.
put unique stuff in it too.
Oh yeah, you
Unique
can put unique stuff for
touches
sure.
that you wouldn't normally see. But I'll go to the other side, Eric, of saying if you don't know, obviously you could take a contractor with you,
True.
and you will learn a lot from contractors.
And the
Don't,
prices change. I mean, the prices
yeah,
for an AC
true.
system before COVID are a lot different than the prices for an AC system after COVID.
Oh, good Lordy, tell me
I've learned
about it.
that one.
Thank you for joining us today. We've covered powerful strategies for running comps, crafting offers, and analyzing exit strategies using REIPro. And we hope you're feeling inspired and equipped to take your real estate investing to the next level. Remember, the tools and insights we explored today are here to simplify and enhance your process. So don't hesitate to put them to work on your next deal. Stay connected with us for future sessions, updates, and resources to keep your momentum going. And if you're not already using REIPro, now's the perfect time to start your 14-day free trial to experience its full potential. Once again, thank you for spending your time with us. We can't wait to see the incredible results you'll achieve. Here's to your success in real estate. Go out and make it happen.